We're supposed to get away from these. Why are we still having blue-white mirror match? Oh, no, there's black.
It's Esper.
All right, so Chris VanMeter is playing Solar Flare.
No, keep the Cobblade alive.
So, Solar Flare won the big decks from this week, I think. And
Pat misses his 4th land drop. That's a big one. And Chris is flashing back his thing twice. I miss doing that play.
I love that. Yeah. And Time Spiral is always one of my favorite cards. It's a vastly underrated card. People just don't understand how powerful Think Twice is.
Yeah. All right. Well, Chris misses his 5th land drop. Pat flashes his Think Twice back. Hits a 4th land. So we're going to see both players trying to stumble to find their land drops. Pat's also playing Spell Pierce, which... or is that Spell Pierce?
No, I think it's Consecrated Sphinx.
It can't be Spell Pierce.
It's Consecrated Sphinx. It's interesting, we were talking about this before, how I think players just not going to have enough lands in their decks because of Zendikar. There's less incentive to run more lands. You know, you have no Colonnades, no Grouping Tar Pits, etc. And I think players are going to come down on their land counts, and then they're just going to find themselves mana screwed more often as a result. Zendikar really spoiled us. And there's Pat discarding that Consecrated Sphinx we were talking about.
Alright, so Chris finds his 5th land drop. And definitely has an advantage against Pat's Sphinxes. One of the reasons that he discarded it was because it's very difficult in these like black control decks to actually draw cards off of it. And there comes down Liliana. First time we see it live.
Yeah, and you can expect to see that play over and over during the day. And that is the card everyone wants to have this weekend. It's only going to go up in price. I mean, this could easily be the next Jace the Mind Sculptor. There's a Jace, or there's a mana leak from Pat McGregor.
And if there's a mana leak coming from Chris, he would be able to mana leak it, but I mean, Chris is going to start, dropping Sun Titans, getting Liliana back. This is the exact play that I really am interested in seeing these control decks doing. It's a really tough spot Pat is in now. Chris is getting up to a bigger mana. Like, they both have, like, Sun Titan-ish effects, but I guess Pat does have a Blade Splicer to beat, if they both go Sun Titan.
And there's a Jace memory depth that Pat McGregor could try and resolve right now. Oh, he just passes back to Chris VanMeter.
Alright, Chris top decks another Liliana. Or has 2 more in his hand. He's ready for both players to discard cards.
That's one of my favorite things about Liliana is how you can play 4 and it just kind of fuels itself. Because if it resolves, you can be like, all right, +1 discard another Liliana if you need to. Plus, it dies so easily,
Yeah. Hopefully it dies so easily.
And Chris tries it out again. I see 2 Oblivion Rings, 1 or 2 Oblivion Rings in Pat McGregor's hand, so he does have answers, but he won't go out down without having to lose a card. And there's a mana leak from Pat McGregor. Still no 6th land for Chris VanMeter, so Pat, make sure Chris can't pay.
I'm curious what cards in his hand. It looked like the Bucket Zendikar Island, but I know he won't be playing that because he's playing Beta. Or it could be a Negate. I'm very curious what cards.
Oh, and Pat has a Negate in his hand.
Yeah, he does have a Negate. It's interesting that he didn't negate instead of use his mana leaks, just for the fact that if a Titan starts coming down, he doesn't have like counterspells for him.
Yeah, I mean, what big mana? Oh, there's Jace Memory Depth. What are you really worried about that you would rather negate? At 6 mana, it seems like you want to negate the Liliana. All right, well, Pat attempts Jace Memory Depth. We'll see if Chris has an answer. I don't think he does.
I actually don't know what's the face down sleeve in play.
Blade Splicer token.
Oh, okay.
Or no, I thought the Blade Splicer was mana leak.
Yeah, so I don't know what that sleeve is.
I mean, sleeves are pretty sweet. I like sleeves. Alright, so Pat mills himself for 1, draws a card. Everyone said when Jace Memory Depth came out that would be better after Innistrad release.
Mm-hmm.
And we're finally starting to see some of that here. Mill yourself, get some flashback action going on. Chris draws a card. Still looking for that elusive 6th land.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of Titans in his hand trying to come into play. He's got both Sun Titan and Grove Titan.
Overloaded on Titans.
Yeah, Chris has all the cards that I was interested in seeing.
no, can't play any of them, though.
Yep.
And doesn't have a good answer to a Planeswalker.
Yeah.
Alright, well, there's 4.
Well, there's an Oblivion Ring.
Alright.
And now Pat's just going to be able to move back an Oblivion Ring and have negate up.
I think it's got to be a Blade Splicer token. Alright. And he attacks.
Oh, no, it's a Haunt. It's the land.
He's got Moorland Haunt.
There we go, yeah.
That's what that is. Okay, that makes more sense. I don't know if you're seeing, the color is kind of off. It's hard for us to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll try our best to interpret it. So Pat McGregor goes for an Oblivion Ring. on Chris's Oblivion Ring. Gets back his Jace, draws a card, mills himself for 1.
Alright, so if you're just tuning in, this is round 1 of the SCG Indianapolis Open, and we have a Liliana, or a Jace on the left for Pat, and not much action for Chris yet.
Yeah, I mean...
There's a glare, so I, just loading and I don't have no clue what was going on.
Yeah, Chris just has a bunch of Titans in his hand. Can't do anything with while he has to stare down that Jace. If you're Pat McGregor, do you ever start just going -10? Or sorry, minus, or, mill 10 cards?
Mill 10? It's difficult because you're in a control mirror, and the card, like, if you keep drawing cards, I think you're already ahead. I'd much rather, like, get so far ahead and then start doing that. Because you're in a control mirror, and he's got, like, if he hits 6 lands, the game can swing. And his hand doesn't look, great right now. He's got some counter spells and Oblivion Rings. I would just rather just draw a bunch of cards. Get way ahead on the land count.
So is that Chris going for another Liliana there?
Yeah, and it resolved.
Alright, Liliana's down, and I imagine... Well, you could go -2 here and kill off that token, or you could go +1, try and strip cards out of Pat's hand. I don't think... Yep, so he just kills the token. I was going to say, I don't think stripping cards out of your hand when your opponent has Jace is a very good plan, so he's just going to go for the -2, kill off that 1/1 token.
Interesting, he has Gideon and Jace in his deck. A lot of cards fighting for that 5-drop slot.
Wow. Yeah, he's got a lot of options, and now he just drew a Consecrated Sphinx, and he has 6 lands. He could cast it if he wants to.
Yeah, he's had that Sphinx for multiple turns. I think, yeah, Oblivion Ring, get rid of the Liliana, keep control of the game.
I think, is that a Metamorph? I thought he just played a Metamorph. Yeah, it's a Metamorph.
No, it can't be a Metamorph. What is he copying? It can't be a Metamorph.
Well, I guess.
It has 0 targets.
Yeah, it looks like a Metamorph to me, but...
It's a shiny card.
It's gorgeous. That's what it is.
It's the most foil I've ever seen. So, Pat played a 3-drop. And,
How much do you like Dissipate in this format, Brad?
it seems like an interesting card. Being able to counter, it's a cancel that gets to remove the card. So sometimes it's going to gain value, being able to RFG, like maybe a Titan or maybe a card with flashback. And 3-mana counterspells are always pretty good at this time in a format. So I think it's a fine spell. I don't know how much I'd want to play it. I think just having Mana Leak and Negate's probably better, because a lot of people are going to be Planeswalkering, and you can just control how the game flows and which counter you want to use at certain times.
Right.
I like, definitely on the draw, I'd much rather have like my counter spells be able to counter Liliana Vess. Or Liliana. I want to call it Vess. I'll probably call it Vess all day. New Liliana.
I mean, she is still Liliana Vess.
Yeah. I can get away with it. You're just letting me get away with it.
Yeah, I'm a flavor guy.
I still just want to know what creatures... Is that the... I guess that could be...
Geist of
Geist?
Sanctuary.
Yeah. That would be real good.
Alright, well, there's an Oblivion Ring from Chris VanMeter. Gonna try and fight off that Jace.
Keep the card advantage down. Still fighting on 5 lands.
Yeah, Chris has not seen another land for a long time. He's hurting for a while.
Visions, just for a cantrip. It's interesting with all the visions, I could see you milling yourself.
I think that was Think Twice.
No, that was a visions. Or it is a Think Twice. Never mind, it is a Think Twice.
Yeah, it's Time Spiral Think Twice.
I need to get my hands on those too. I like playing with the oldest.
Oh, you don't have the Time Spiral one?
I mean, I used to, but I got rid of all my old cards. I was moving, and I just kept all my, cards that I actually am playing with now.
Man, how could you get rid of Think Twice is the best. Why'd you ever get rid of Think Twice?
Because I didn't think they would let me play with it again.
So Gideon crashes in.
Gets Doombladed, probably counterspell.
Oh.
Or just lets it go.
Alright, Gideon dies to a Doom Blade.
And card that we don't know deals some amount of damage.
Pat tapping a lot of lands. Is this Sun Titan? Sunny side up? Oh, Consecrated Sphinx. Alright, yeah, there's...
Do you have more of the blades?
I do not see more blades in Chris's hands. Alright, passes the turn. Chris draws. Pat draws twice.
I'm interested that he's playing Doomblade and not more go for the throats. I think being able to kill Grave Titans is more important than killing Mem Knights.
Well, I think a lot of people have split. There's a Dad Judgment.
There's a
Chris.
split, yeah.
That's pretty good. A lot of people, you want to split in this format because with Snapcaster Mage, like if the game goes long, you want to be able to choose which one you want to use.
True. Yeah, he's got both his Titans in hand. We're going to see Chris just start slamming Titans, hoping they resolve and take over the game. Hope Pat's mana flooded.
And he is a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, Jace was taken care of. Now, is that... Okay, I think that is Geist Staying Trap. That's what he's been using. But now he's going to go for an O-Ring.
O-Ring to get his Jace back. Start drawing cards again.
So many O-Rings. All the rings. Alright, mill for one. He mills another O-Ring.
Oh, he would have wanted that. But the mana leak's great. Drawing that mana leak is really good right now.
Yep, we make sure Chris's Titans don't resolve. And now, taps 3, here's a Geist.
Yeah. Alright, so that's an interesting one. I didn't know how many people were going to play with that. It's a 2/2 hexproof that when it attacks, you get to put a Hell's Thunder into play, effectively.
It's a neat little card. A lot of people were concerned it was just going to trade off with other 2/2s, but in a control matchup, it's great. Like, you lay it down, it's a complete breaker. People kind of pegged it as a sideboard card for control decks, but in this case, no sideboard necessary.
No. Alright, yeah, so he has 3 lands and a mana leak against 2 Titans, but a very low life total for Chris.
Yeah, and there's a Titan, and Pat's just going to definitely mana leak.
And Chris is going to scoop him up, I think.
Why would he concede?
But I guess you could stay in the game, but you're going to go down to 2 life, and then if you actually draw like Day of Judgment, then you're going to just make a 1/1 token, bash you down to 1, have 2 1/1 tokens.
You never know. You also could just get more information this way. I mean, he's going to draw a card with Chase, right?
And mill a card.
Yeah, exactly.
At this point, if I was Pat, I would have just milled Chris to see if he was running Snapcaster Mage.
So, Pat puts Chris down to 2 life. There's a Hero Blade Hole.
Yeah, look at this information Pat's just given him. That's true, yeah. Staying in an extra turn.
I mean, that actually knowing about that hero is a big deal.
Yeah,
that changes things
deal.
tremendously. Alright, Chris draws a land. Yeah, he just concedes.
Alright, so Pat takes game 1 with his blue-white, effectively Cobblade. I don't know if there's any swords in there.
I'm not going to call this Cobblade. No,
Come on,
we're done.
It lives on. It lives forever.
Does not. It's not even close. Definitely not. So, what we saw there at the end of it was in Chris's hand, he had Sun Titan, so if he hadn't played that hero, could Chris have played Sun Titan, got back Liliana, -2, killed off the Geist, and then had a Sun Titan?
No, because the land would have made a token in response.
Did he have the land untapped?
Yeah.
Or I guess if he doesn't cast the hero, the land is definitely
Well, he had it even if he cast hero.
Okay.
Because he cast O-Ring and the Geist and still had the Haunt land
Just
ready.
gotta hope he misses the land.
Just doesn't think about it, like, yeah, I'll sack my big bomb.
Won't be the first time. So, looks like Pat McGregor takes the first game with his innovative-ish blue-eye deck. I guess everything is innovative here this weekend in Indianapolis because people are pulling out their brand new Innistrad cards, and here we are, round 1, finally, no more Cobblade, no more decks of just seeing infinite, no more Splinter Twin, right? I mean, it's a whole new world. There's a card from Rise. You were saying, like, we were trying to find cards from Rise, worked it out earlier. Splinter Twin's a big one.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's true, yeah. Splinter Twin is definitely the big one. Keeping that combo deck from doing anything in this format's good. I don't really like combo decks like that in format, so I'm glad to see that gone.
Splinter Twin, I mean, I don't necessarily mind combo, but I don't think Splinter Twin was good for Standard.
Well, no, the problem with the last Standard format was pretty much every deck in the format, if it was just alone and all the other decks were fair, it would have still warped the format. But the entire format was format warping decks. Valakut, Cobblade, Mono Red, and Splinter Twin all were really degenerate decks.
Right, so it just ended up, like some spoon that you had bent and put through the washer. Like it was just warped in so many different ways,
Yeah.
and everything was kind of contorted around it. And but now we have a whole new format. It's a whole different ball game. We'll see how much Liliana ends up affecting the format. Seems like that's the card that might end up shaping this format.
Yeah, I mean, Pat played against 3 of them that game and it didn't do a single thing.
I mean,
they were all countered.
we might as well, like, the first two could have just said you win the game, and it's, mana leaked, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think mana leak is just insane. That card is unbelievable. There we go, the nice little black and white filter here. But mana leak, I mean, mana leak is so powerful, people just don't understand. I would be incredibly surprised if it was back in M13. The card just has a defined standard almost more than most other cards have.
Yeah, having mana leak in the format really does things, but I think that's a good thing. I think having some amount of counter magic is just a great thing. You don't want the other blue cards to be too powerful. Like, you see it right now, like, blue is still just like the splash color. You're running it for like mana leak, you're running it for some like card draw that's, Think Twice is like one of the best ones, and maybe a Planeswalker like Jace, but it's not really the dominating deck in the format, even with Snapcaster. Snapcaster's relying on, other removal spells from other colors.
I mean, it seems like blue is pretty heavy, right? Like, in the last game, we saw Mana Leak, Think Twice, Jace Memory Adept, Geist of Saint Traft, the blue-white lands. I mean, Negate, Consecrated Sphinx. Like, those are some pretty heavy blue cards.
Sure.
Dissipate, right? Like, there's some reasonable blueness going down. Usually, I find in these kind of decks, if you're splashing like black or something like that, Kristen would have gone for.
There's Craig Wesco walking around playing White Weenie, so he probably won in a quick amount of time.
I mean, when Craig put White Weenie in his hand, he's always happy about it. And I mean, you can play with some good humans and some White Weenie good humans. Like, why not? Go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the cool thing about the first weekend here. I mean, the metagame's not really set, so you can kind of play whatever you want and just have a fun time with it. I mean, some people are playing some, weird decks, but, if you just brew up a deck, you can just play it, and everyone else has brewed up a deck. So,
yep.
Just prepare for some decks they're going to be there. Tempered Steel, Blue, Black, Splinter Twin, right?
I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens this weekend, but there's a very good chance States is the next constructed tournament I'm going to play in. There's a good chance I'm going to be playing 4 Sphere of the Suns, 4 Liliana, and 4 Sun Titans. It took me a while, but then I just realized how powerful just like that interaction is, and to get the mana to work, because obviously you want the blue cards too. Like Sphere is there.
That's the deck I wrote about this week. It's so good. I mean, it's the only deck I've tested so far in this format, but it just seems so powerful against everything I've played it against. I mean, like, Liliana's insane. Like, Sphere fixes your mana. I think you have to have Sphere. It just fixes your mana so well.
I think that's going to be one that we're going to see. Like, why wouldn't these Solar Flare decks run Sphere? They all ran Signets before, but now they just don't want the acceleration.
Yeah, I mean, also, more than that, they just need the mana fixing. I mean, I was looking over Paul Chion's deck after he won U.S. Nationals. I mean, there's 24 lands, but the mana was just so good. You had all the Ravnica lands, you had the bounce lands, the dual lands, like, all the Signets, and you just have to play with Sphere of the Suns. And the cool thing about playing with Sphere is it means you get to play with less of the comes into play tap lands. You can play with, less Drowned Catacombs and stuff like that, too, so you can just play your spells on time more often. Once again, I also just don't think players are going to be playing enough lands in this format. I mean, I would be playing, I don't know how many lands Chris is playing, like, don't have his deck in front of me, but I'd be playing 26 lands if you didn't have Sphere.
26 seems about correct.
I mean, if you have Sphere, I think 25 is probably passable.
Yeah, very true. So each player keeps their 7s, and land go into land go.
Alright, and here we are, Glaragon. Jeremy, the master behind the scenes, fixed it all up for us. So,
Island, a gorgeous Seachrome Coast.
Island,
as all the other cards start a little technical, but it's way better.
Island, Glacial Fortress for Chris VanMeter, Seachrome Coast Island for Pat McGregor, and there is a tapped black-white lands, the Chapel, Isolated Chapel. Is that right?
I think so.
Something like that.
I'm gonna be bad for names. And it's back.
And there's the Geist of Saint Traft.
Yeah, it has to be unless there's a 3/3 that comes into play. Yeah, it resolves no tokens, so there's the Geese.
And it's just a total breaker. Now there's a Snapcaster mage. Snapcaster blocks that dude pretty well. Gonna Despise. Chris is going to go for a Despise on Pat McGregor.
I think he just put over a Karn way over on the right.
And so I think there's 2 Hero Blade holds, a Mana Leak, 2 other cards I can't make out.
No, I think it's Hero and Geist.
I think it's Hero Geist Karn.
Yeah, Hero Geist Karn are the cards that he can target.
That's pretty tricky. I mean, you have to either take the... Yeah, I mean, you take like the guy that's going to beat you down now, or the Karn that could beat you in 6 turns.
I don't think I'd be worried about the Karn yet. Like, there's a Geist in play, there's a Geist and a Hero in hand. I mean, who knows if... Oh, there's a Phantasmal Image just to legend out.
Phantasmal Image does a good job of just speeding Geese of St. Traff. And now Chris is going to Surgical Extraction all the Geese away from Pat. That's a nice little play there.
I like it.
Despise, Phantasmal Image, Surgical Extraction.
Yeah, so yeah, especially with that hand, it's not that very powerful. I would let the Karn stay in play. You're the blue-black deck. You should be able to get some power in the way late game.
Or, you also just have like mana leaks and stuff like that you can kind of muddle around with there.
I think Pat has 3 Torpor Orbs in his deck. As I was looking through it, I think he does.
I mean, if Chris's deck is Mono Titans, like Torpor Orb is a pretty reasonable answer.
Well, not really. Just the first, not the second ability, not the attack.
Yeah, but if you load up your deck on removal spells, you just don't want to get card advantage now. Because that's the thing about Titans is like play it, resolves, effect, kill it. Well, you still got something out of that exchange. Torpor Orb puts you down a card, but if it deals with all of Chris's Titans, it might be a reasonable option. All right, so Pat lays his 4th land.
I think he's playing multiple different types of... He has a Think Twice in hand, right?
Yeah. So
he has multiple different types of Think Twices.
Probably couldn't find his 4th old one.
Sad.
Dark Slick Shores then for Chris VanMeter. I love Think Twice so much. There's Think Twice for Pat McGregor. It just looks so innocuous when you read it. You're like, oh, well, this is like a weird cantrip that costs 2. Why would I play this? But it's so good when you play it. Flips over werewolves. Just does everything. Another land.
Keeps them from flipping.
Another land for McGregor. Yeah, totally true. Very good and limited. They're pretty happy with it in the Seal games I've played.
Right, Snapcaster Mage, Sun Titan, Mana Leak for Chris. Well, Pat has Think Twice in the graveyard, a Mana Leak and a Karn in hand.
How do we like the interaction between Snapcaster Mage and...
the Torpor Orbs aren't negates, never mind.
Oh, okay. So much for that. Well, hitting Surgical Extraction with your Snapcaster Mages is kind of interesting. It lets you just rebuy on your Surgical Extractions. And normally that's an effect I don't really like. That Surgical Extraction is not exciting to me. But if you can continually reuse it, it's kind of a...
I think Surgical Extraction is very interesting right now, and it's not just to nuke a deck from its reanimation spell, like a Sun Titan, which is still interesting to hit it in response to like a reanimation spell, but like you get to hit the card that there's Snapcaster Maging, right?
Right.
And which is pretty great. They go Snapcaster Mage to bring back a Mana Leak, and for free, you get to counter that Mana Leak.
And strip any other ones.
And strip all Mana Leaks. And, so...
If that's what you want to do. Looks like tapping 3 for a Blade Splicer.
Wonderful card.
That's a card, like you were saying earlier, it's very good against Liliana, because the extra token you make, it fights Liliana really well.
Yeah, if it comes down before Liliana hits play, Liliana alone cannot beat it, and cannot live to untap.
Right, you have to do something like, dismember the token or something like that. Chris deciding what he wants to do here now.
Chris is in a very tough spot.
He has to find out. He's got a day in his hand. All right, and
does he have? Yeah, he does have 2 white sources. So right now he has Mana Leak plus a day. So if Pat doesn't have 2 counter spells, but we do know he has 2.
Yep, Mana Leak and Negate. Looks like Pat has gone for the plenty of counter spells. I'm sure Chris is just going to go for it because he's under the same logic we do. He probably doesn't have 2 counter spells. And Chris goes for the day.
I mean, maybe he doesn't counter it. Maybe he just resolves it and puts another 1/1 into play.
If I were Pat, I would at least try and draw out one of Chris's counter spells here.
Yeah.
The question I think for Pat is if he wants to go for the Mana Leak or the Negate. All right, he goes for the Negate.
Yeah, I like that. He doesn't have many, answers to a big Titan.
Yep, and especially...
And Chris can't counter this because if he does, then Karn hits the table.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Chris has to let this resolve. He has to hold up his counter spell. So, yeah, I do like this play because even the counter war, Pat can't really get... Pat is fine with getting into a counter war and taking over the game with a Karn, where Chris can't fight a counter war. So, yeah, countering this makes complete sense.
Yeah, I like countering it. It's kind of an issue for Chris because, like, either way it's bad for him. He resolves Karn, that's terrible. Have to fight through all these creatures, that's also terrible. Like,
yeah, he's in a almost unwinnable situation.
I don't know about unwinnable, but not a good situation, that's for sure.
He's getting beat on all control edges right now. He's taking 5 a turn. He has to deal with counterspells, and if he ever taps out, he gets Karn.
I don't know, if he draws like a... Okay, that's what he's looking for. He can Snapcaster Mage that day, but then just gets Mana Leak from Pat.
Even if it doesn't, he gets Karn.
Yeah. Well, or gets Mana Leak and Karn.
Yeah.
Alright, well, there's a Snappy. And maybe Chris is just like, I have to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what Pat does. I mean, you never... I don't think he would counter that Snapcaster Mage here. And Chris thinking about his line of play. I think there's a Sun Titan in his hand. Let's see, Mana Leak. This looks kind of Mana Leak, Titan. Could target that day in his graveyard. Alright. Taps 1, and he's going to flash back to Despise, taking away that Karn potentially. Alright, so... the Despise, if it resolves, will take care of his Karn problem, but passing up for negate...
Interesting.
Well, he doesn't want that Karn to go away. He knows that the Karn is putting an ever-present clock on Chris, and, you know. Alright, resolves. And Pat just has all the answers this game. Every time Chris has tried to do something, it's nope, got this negate, got this Mana Leak. And we don't have Pat's deck list in front of us, but boarding up to 4 negates after sideboarding is a pretty legitimate strategy.
Oh, I think negate's going to be a big card in this format. Most of my blue decks have 4 negates somewhere between main and sideboard. I was even playing a deck with 4 Mana Leak, 4 negate, man, and it didn't seem too bad.
That's great. Alright, Pat plays land, passes. Next turn he'll have access to Karn with counterspell backup.
And it's your turn clock. And so think twice for Chris.
Chris could go for Sun Titan here, but then he just gets Karn, so that doesn't really work out.
Well, he's been playing around Pat having another counterspell, or I guess he hasn't really. He's just been protecting himself from a Karn.
Yeah, mainly he's just been saying, I cannot let that Karn resolve. And so if you're Chris, what do you think the line is here? I think his hand is Leak, Snapcaster, Sun Titan.
I mean, you can just say go,
or he's got Think Twice.
Flashback your play and flashback your Think Twice next turn. But you're in a really tough spot right now. Like I don't know how you get out of it. Like I think you have to think twice and try to hit those 3 cards to do something important. Like day plus, like you need it to be what? Like the line is like day, counterspell, and then an Oblivion Ring.
All right. Well, flashes 1 back. And draws. I don't think I see anything in there.
He didn't have anything, yeah.
I think that's going to be it. I mean, he might go for something.
He's going to go for... Well, no, actually, he has Gideon. So Gideon plus Mana Leak right now. So in his mind, he can live a turn if Pat doesn't have anything, but Pat does have something.
Yeah, I mean...
What's the Black Border card? That must be a Dissipate.
It's Dissipate. Yeah, it's Dissipate.
All
right, and that's it. Chris VanMeter falls to Pat McGregor, who wins 2-0. And... wow, it was a neat little blue-white deck we saw there. Geast of St. Traft dealing some serious damage. That guy is a beating.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good. I was scared to play a card like that against Liliana, but, you also have Blade Splicer, and I don't know. It seems like a very difficult card on the draw to want to play against a deck with Liliana. Maybe